Hello everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this video we'll be going through a unboxing and review of Deluxe class Wheeljack. And this version of Wheeljack is out of the main Deluxe line for Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Now before looking at Wheeljack, or Pablo Jack as I affectionately call him, I did have a look at the Deluxe class of Bumblebee. And let's just say I was a bit disappointed. So I'm hoping Pablo Jack will be not as disappointing. Time will tell. Anyway, front of the box, so CGI of Wheeljack. Nice shot of him in his little window there. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the look. Actually, that does remind me. Now, as much as I would love to go on this wonderful tale and tangent of my general displeasure of the visual aesthetic of Wheeljack, especially compared to Transformers Bumblebee, I will keep that to a minimum and focus on the figure. The figure was obviously designed after he was created for the movies, so it's not like it's the figure's fault for what he looks like. So I'll just keep it in the context of the figure, what the figure can do, what the figure cannot do, and yeah, try and keep things to a minimum about, once again, the general aesthetic of Wheeljack. With that now being said, rest of the box is pretty much standard, with a bit more artwork. On the back we do have a shot of Wheeljack in his robot mode. He actually will come with a weapon as well, which is nice, as well as his alt mode, 23-step conversion. Colors wise actually doesn't look too bad, so it'll be very interesting to see how this pans out, especially having looked at the battle weaponizer version of Wheeljack. Definitely wasn't too bad. The paint apps were not the figure's strong point, but the figure had some potential, especially at its price point, what it could do. So it's nice to see at the Deluxe class there's more paint apps included. I do remember the Autobot logo will be red in both modes, so that is pretty cool. So now that we've had a look at the general boxing, time to open up the box, get Pablo Jack out, and do the usual, have a look at his robot mode, look at his alt mode, and have some final thoughts about what I think of the figure. And with everything out of the box, what do we have? So we have a single accessory, which actually doesn't look too bad. It's got a nice visual aesthetic to it. We'll have a better look at that later on. One Pablo Jack, as to be expected, and a manual. So before we get too interested in Pablo Jack over here, doesn't seem to be falling apart yet, so that's always an improvement over Bumblebee. Manual. Naturally there will be the step on how to equip his weapon, pretty self-explanatory. Then going through the steps for the initial transformation, doesn't look too bad. Looks like there should be some nice tabbing as well to keep the vehicle mode very nice and all together. And the final 12 to 23 steps, pretty much just going through his legs and flipping those all around. So really not too bad. And there is his finished alt mode, and there will be some options on attaching his weapon to his alt mode. We'll definitely have a look, but once again, especially for Earth-based vehicles, very weird having one of those attached. So that was the manual. Will I need that later? Most likely. So, Wheeljack, just go over there for a brief moment. So, just a better look at the weapon once again. All in black. The design aesthetic is actually very nice. It's different. And in terms of equipping it, while you're laying down, that will just go into your hand like so, and that's actually a very tight grip. And there we have it. equipped with your weapon. Now, of course, I suspect it goes into both hands. In fact, we might even try that. So I'm just curious to see if there's actually one that doesn't feel super duper tight. No, they both feel super duper tight. Now, obviously, that could just be my one where the grip is excessively tight, so just be careful with yours if you do elect to grab one. But there we go. Not too bad. So that was the accessory. We will have a look at that once again once Pablo Jack is in his vehicle mode. Now, if we get too carried away, you'll definitely stand on your own 2 feet. That's always a good sign. So, call you Wheeljack for a little bit. Wheeljack. From the front, the side, the back, the other side. Quick close-up of your head and torso. Actually, you've got another Autobot logo, what appears to be on the top of your head as well. It's very nice. So yeah, that's actually not too bad. Definitely got a little bit of detailing throughout. Now, in terms of colours, what are you sporting? Looks like it's a bit of a ivory white with some... feels more like a bronze than a brown, which actually colour-wise doesn't go too badly. We do have some of these blue paint apps, some silver, bit of black, which actually does help break up the colours. So from a colour perspective, it actually isn't too bad. It actually is quite cohesive and works, so I'll definitely give you that. Now, there's a little bit of kibbling, but it's fairly flush. And he also has a very small little wing, well, side wings, which is cool. But I have noticed this little section, it feels loose, and I suspect it's because it's probably on a swivel mount. So just be careful with that, but it does remain fairly flush to the figure, so even if you are holding it, yeah, it's not going to pop off or anything, but just be aware that it will feel loose, but it isn't actually loose. So that's actually not too bad. The main thing is it's actually quite flush to the body. Now, had a look at a little bit of kibble, talked about your colours. What type of articulation do you have? Well, let's see. So your head can definitely do a 360, especially when you tilt it up a bit. So you'll definitely have a bit of tilt and panning, which is actually quite cool. In fact, that's such a decent degree of neck mobility, which is really cool. You can also tilt down a little bit as well. So overall, your head is fairly mobile. It also works out better when you can just move the windscreen on the back a little bit as well, just to give yourself a bit more space. Very nice. In terms of the arms, so it can pretty much do a 360, especially if you just off tilt the arm to the side when you're doing it, as well as just try and make a bit more space by moving the door wing to, well, away from the arm. We have a little bit of movement in here, but not too much at the actual shoulder chest area. But most of the movement, thankfully, is in this little ball socket for the shoulder. And the good thing is the arm can also go out that much as well, and because of the movement there, we'll definitely do all of that. So that's actually very cool. In terms of the arm, so we do have a 360 spin at the just above the elbow, and the elbow itself will also do a usual 90-degree bend, so that actually works out very well. Definitely a nice array of articulation. Well, in fact, it's fairly standard articulation for a Deluxe, so that is very cool. Very normal, and definitely very posable for the most part with his arms. You will be able to do a 360 at the waist. In fact, it's just below the waistline, but that's okay, and surprisingly you're not encumbered by doing it, so there you go. Full 360 at the waist. As for the legs, you cannot do a full split, probably best 45 degree, given that some of your kibbling here, so your wheels and the top of your thighs, will just unfortunately collide with parts of your lower waist. That's not too bad. I will admit, the amount of times I've done posing for shorts and things like that, I haven't needed to make use of a full split. Now as for the legs, so leg will go all the way to the front, all the way to the back, and we already know about that, so that's not too bad. There is no spin within the upper thigh, unfortunately, so no rotation there. As for the knee bend, your standard knee bend. And then lastly, the actual foot itself. So the foot will be able to do a full 360. So it actually is a ball socket in there. And by doing so, yeah, you can get some decent poses out of the feet. Well, support the feet better. Because it's a ball socket, obviously you've got a little bit of side to side and front to back as well. With that spin. So overall, Wheeljack, you're actually not too bad as a deluxe figure. Very interesting to see what your studio series would be like if and when you get one. I'd like to think you will get one, but so far, as just a mainline deluxe, not too bad. I'm actually more comfortable with him than I was with Bumblebee. And if you've seen the Bumblebee movie, I think around the 9-minute mark is when I start to display some agitation. Let's leave it at that. But that's cool. So that's a bit of a run through of Wheeljack's articulation. Quick look at his collars. We did that before we looked at the articulation. So overall, articulation is quite standard. Collars, once again, work quite well. Yes, there could be some more work to try and really bring out some of the colors and detailing, but he is a deluxe class figure after all, and he's also not a studio series, so you can only expect so much. But, you know, if you wanted to add some more detailing, you probably could detail some of these panels, a bit more color on some of these other items, maybe even splash some color onto his feet. So, Wheeljack, now that we've had a look at you in your robot mode, I will transform you, then we can have a look at your alt mode. And with Wheeljack now in his vehicle mode. I actually quite liked it, surprisingly enough. It's not a difficult transformation, and obviously, yes, I was using the manual, but even then, it wasn't overly difficult. There's definitely a nice array of tabbing to keep things nice and secure, and I think as a for his vehicle mode, it will definitely feel quite secure. Everything actually lined up quite nicely. Having had experience with other toys, even though they've had the tabbing, they just don't line up really well, but this actually lined up very well. So going back to what I said at the very beginning of the video about, you know, the character himself and the visual aesthetic is whatever. As a figure, he's actually quite surprising. Now, I have put his weapon on top of his wagon mode. Now, once again, that just looks weird. Now, I know some people probably say, just pretend it's a Cybertronian antenna dish. And it's like, well, yes, you can do that to a degree, but it still looks weird. Now, that's one way of having it. The other way, I believe, of having it was attached to the back as well. So that one is probably more believable because of how TV news vans back in the day and all their antenna equipment and stuff like that. So it still looks a little bit weird. And I say that with a lot of weapons on vehicle attachments. But it's definitely not too bad. It's nice that it's included, so those who enjoy it can use it. Those who aren't too keen, well, it's nice. Once again, it's nice to have it. there. So, Pablo Jack, front of your wagon, from the side, the back, the other side, from the top, and from the bottom. Now, you will have 4 wheels. They are all independent of each other, although the ones on the back... Oh, there we go. Just need to make sure they get pushed forward properly. So independently, if you use your fingers, yes, the wheels will move. The back wheels do feel a little bit sticky. During the front, feel much better. So yes, you can move Pablo like so. And that'll probably be the only articulation for his vehicle mode. Now, colors, they're all the same colors, so we do pretty much focus more on the ivory white with the bronze color as well, but surprisingly, as I mentioned when he was in his robot mode, it seems to work. We do have a bit of blue for some of his detailing, some silver. His Autobot logo has also got some color. It's even a little bit of color up here for some of his forward lights, I guess. His iconic TV Pablo on the side there. In fact, it's on both sides as well. And even the back has a bit of paint apps on the back windows and the bottom of his bumper plate and lights. So definitely not too bad looking for his vehicle mode. The colors are nice. The figure actually feels quite solid. Like if I do this, he's not de-transforming or anything. You know, the back is very neat, especially with some of this extra detailing. Even the bottom is actually quite relatively neat, and that's saying something. So that's very nice. As for the tabbing, before I forget, so there's the tabbing a little bit here. We do get some initial tabbing when these little windows attach to the top of the arm. Some more tabbing in here. And there's a good array of tabbing here with the back legs as well, and putting these panels down. So overall, I'm actually quite impressed with his vehicle mode. So that is that. So, Pablo Jack, go there. Bring your manual back here just for some memory reminders. So, what are my final thoughts on Pablo Jack? So from a robot perspective, some of the little things that irked me a little bit. So even though he has flush kibble, that back piece does feel a little bit loose, and now that I've done the transformation, it's not a spin, it's actually on a little up and down track. So it's just an artifact of that, but the track is still fairly short and robust, so the only reason why it jiggles is just because it's jiggling within the track. But other than that, it's actually not too bad. The colors, the details actually aren't too bad for a deluxe class. The colors seemingly actually do work. The included accessory does actually look quite nice, and he actually does sport a standard array of articulations, so getting him into some dynamic poses won't be too bad. He didn't have the swivel at the very top of the thighs. I don't think that'll be a make or break, but it is very nice when it's included. But his arms appear to be fairly expressive. He does have a full 360 at the waist, and his legs are definitely pretty good with the articulation. So I think overall his robot mode really isn't that bad. Transition in the transformation, as I mentioned already, that was actually quite enjoyable to do. And at the end of it, because everything does have a lot of tabbing, you will be left with a fairly sturdy and robust alt mode. As for the alt mode, colors actually still look quite nice. It's nice to see some of the translucent blue with the windscreen and the side windows. And obviously being a automobile, he doesn't sport too much articulation other than the fact that his wheels do spin. Mileage will vary when it comes to putting the weapon on the top of him. It's naturally just boils down to general, what am I thinking? General preference, if it's something you like or do not like. I'm unfortunately more in the do not like / don't think it's practical, but that's me. Once again, mileage will vary. So between his robot mode, his alt mode transformation, overall, this Deluxe class Wheeljack has actually been a fairly enjoyable figure to play around with. I seemingly made a joke in the Bumblebee Deluxe class movie that I should have done Wheeljack first, and to be honest, kind of wish I did, but at the same time I'm glad I didn't, because it's been a bit more of a optimistic uplift on the Deluxe class range, given some of the frustrations I had with Bumblebee. So overall, I actually would be in a position to recommend Wheeljack. Now, once again, this is recommending Wheeljack as a figure. As a figure, he's actually not too bad. People's opinions on the visual aesthetic and all that stuff, yes, I agree. I'm as perplexed as others. So once again, it will literally boil down to, if you're okay with his look and actually don't mind a playable figure, decent pickup, at least up until a potential studio series figure is released. If the visual aesthetic is not you, then naturally you will make it a point to skip this. But if you definitely don't mind the visual look, I would actually say he's actually not a bad pickup at all. Now, oddly enough, I do feel he seems a little bit small, especially his alt mode. So at some point in time, especially once I get Mirage, and if there are any more Deluxes to be released, I'm sure I'll do a bit of a group shot just for some comparisons of all the mainline Deluxes. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That will be down the future. Definitely down the future. So that will bring us to the end of the unboxing and review of Deluxe class Wheeljack out of the Rise of the Beasts Deluxe class mainline. Yeah, color me pleasantly surprised. This does give me hope for some of the other figures. I know I'm still have a bit of air of, well, I don't want to say cynicism, but I'm still a bit skeptical with Airazor and Cheetor. And Nightbird I'm still obviously on the fence for. Who the next Deluxe to be unboxed and reviewed it, haven't decided. I might start looking at the Maximals, because best get them out of the way, and potentially finish off with Nightbird and then move into the Voyagers. In saying that, I do know Mirage is supposed to come out soon, so he may wiggle himself in sooner rather than later. Time will tell. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram. Link to that is in the description below. And if you've made it this far, you will probably know there will be a parallel short to accompany this unboxing and review. Feel free to have a look at it. Obviously just a few more poses, a little bit of music in the background, just to obviously be a bit more showy offy that this video doesn't necessarily do. So with all that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in the soon to be released Rise of the Beasts Deluxe class video. Alternatively, potentially see you around on some of the other content on the channel. See ya.